Hello and welcome back to another mod dev diary for the mod Imperator Invictus, the mod that attempts to add in the flavor and finesse to a game that has been somewhat abandoned by the company that made it. So, let us get into the 13th dev diary, talking about the building rework, some new cultural inventions, and also some patch notes. So, we're going to be looking for artists as well, 3D artists who can make models, and testers who can provide feedback for the various changes in mission trees and development. So there's a link to the Discord there. There's also one in the description below if you are interested in helping out with the mod. That would be very much appreciated. Very much appreciated. But let's get into the dev diary itself. Kali Spera, I guess that's another like Salwe kind of thing, but you know. Hannibal the Cannibal here, this week to talk about some exciting new changes that will affect all players. We received feedback from the community that at present the reduction of metropoles from rank 3 to rank 2 and cities from rank 2 to rank 1 has severely reduced the number of trade goods available. Yeah, so basically what he's saying there is in the vanilla game, if you had a city, you would get one extra trade good. So if you had a territory that produced cloth, a settlement would produce one cloth at base, a city 2, and a metropolis would produce 3. This is before you add in any slaves whatsoever. This was reduced so that cities didn't provide anything extra, and metropolis only provided 1. It was a huge change that not a whole lot of people were very happy with, as it severely reduced the amount of trade options that you had at the start of the game and throughout the game, and basically the entire time you were playing the game. It reduced the amount of money in the world, which I guess can be argued to be a good thing. But even so, let's see what else we've got going on. The change to trade good production has had a knock-on effect on the economy, diplomacy, and long-term strategic planning. Some people weren't happy with the somewhat sudden shortage of goods, while others were pleased that the market is no longer absolutely flooded with goods as well, as is the case in vanilla. I wouldn't say vanilla was flooded with goods other than food goods, and I'm gonna be honest, kinda still the case. I'm going to be brutally honest, it's kind of still the case, and I'll load up a Invictus game, bearing in mind that this is a multiplayer game and not a single player, so various things will be different. But 546, if I go and have a look at trade, let's just cancel the route so I have a free one available. The food is still incredibly abundant compared to everything else. And everything else is somewhat short. There's mostly a shortage of citizen and noble goods. Other than cloth, it seems to be very commonplace. But most other things are different. I mean, there's just less of it in general, other than food goods, which has kind of been unchanged. It's probably because food goods never got affected by the city and metropolis changes. Yeah. But yeah, it's like I say, it's still just flooded with food because food isn't changed by the city and metropolis changes. But now we've been discussing at length on how best to achieve a middle ground, and the direction we've taken is a slight rework of the buildings. In addition to addressing some general balancing concerns and shaking up certain multiplayer metas, it's our hope that by changing the costs, build times, and effects of buildings, we can help to generate more trade goods in territories where players invest, as well as provide more paths for civilization customization. I'll be going one by one through each building as part of the dev diary, and you'll notice that while most buildings have something adjusted, very few buildings are radically changed. And also, I forgot to put that back on. There you go. And yeah, I just read this bit here. So just my apologies. Just messed up my Streamlabs. It's okay. So, general changes. It may be helpful to first speak about changes to the base cost for each of the buildings. To streamline this process, consider each of the city buildings into tiers 1, 2, and 3 based on the build cost. Since we've also changed the base costs of settlement buildings as well, it may be helpful to also think of them as tier 2, with one exception. Moving forward, tier 1 buildings will have a base cost of 80 gold, down from 100. This should help smaller nations who have less money available to them to more easily build them and make the choice of building multiples of these buildings more appealing. Tier 1 buildings include the granary, library, marketplace, training camp, tax office, and the tribal settlement. Regarding the last building, it was noticed that very few tribes had the funds to build multiple tribal settlements, and their use was limited even for tribal nations. With a smaller cost, we're hoping to see more of these built for players that want to develop their tribal lands a bit. Unless this changed the modifiers, probably still not going to do it. Tier 2 buildings will have a base cost double that of Tier 1, which is 160 gold, up from 150 for cities and down from 200 gold. Okay. Most Tier 2 buildings have received some slight effect boosts to compensate for the increased cost, while the settlement buildings have received a 20% reduction in their base cost. This price reduction will help speed up the development of territories, which among other things speeds up trade good production. Tier 2 buildings include fortresses, ports, academies, courts of law, forums, mills, barracks, mines, slave estates, farming settlements, and provincial legations. And then finally we got the Tier 3 buildings that have a base cost double that of Tier 2, which is 320 gold, up from 320 gold. I'm pretty sure this should be 300 gold there, because I believe he's probably talking about these buildings here. Let's find a free slot one. Base cost of 300, yeah, so... See if I could just, there it is, 300. And also just get there, just show you base cost 300, and it's changed. So fair enough. And yeah, so it's base cost up from 300, except from earthworks, which goes up to the tier 2 cost of 160. Has anyone ever built an earthworks? Just out of curiosity, I don't think anyone's ever built an earthworks. They're just not good. Just not good. Maybe they've changed it here. Who knows? So, Tier 3 buildings are the most powerful, locked behind tech, and typically some of the most spammed buildings in wider empires. I wouldn't say they're spammed, but no. The price increase is small, but will help curb the speed with which they're spammed. Note, most Tier 3 buildings haven't changed much except for the Foundry, which is arguably the most significant change in the rework. Tier 3 buildings include the Earthworks, which is shit, Foundries, Great Temples, and Grand Theatres. Also, I just noticed there is no music going on. Let me just play another music track. There we go. I'm also using here the UI rework, which is, if you're playing Invictus, personally, I recommend you use the UI rework mod as well, because it's just a straight improvement across the board in every single category, in my opinion. Anyway, fortresses. Increase the civ boost from 1% to 2% to be in line with other T2 buildings. If that's the only change, it's really not much of a change at all. No one's going to be spamming these for the civ level after all. Everything else seems... Oh, local manpower negative 5%. I believe that is a difference. It is not. That is still the case. Okay. I know you couldn't see that, but don't worry about it. It's fine. So, local manpower goes down, fort level goes up, fort defense, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's the only change. The port. We replaced the +1 pop capacity modifier with 2 new effects, +3% to civilization value and +5% local trade routes modifier. This will slowly help to accomplish the goal of population increase from the previous modifier, while also increasing the output and commercial gains you'd expect. Additionally, stacking ports will now be a more viable strategy, allowing for relatively lucrative cities, though not as much as other specialized builds, due to their civ value effects and increased trade. We've added a max amount of 6 port levels per city. This is both practical, as there is virtually no reason to build more than 6 ports in their current state, and balanced, as 6 times 3 is 18% civ increase in total from 6 buildings, costing 150 gold each. This is in line with the civ increases it costs from 6 of the Tier 2 city buildings. Okay. That's fair enough. You know, I like that there is a civilization value increase and trade route increase, because, you know, trade goes through ports. It makes a whole lot of sense. 5% is... It's iffy, right? Because the problem with these base trade routes changes... Let me just go into Invictus, or into the game, I should say, to show you what I mean. The problem with those changes is that it doesn't matter what the percentage you get from either the marketplace here, 2.5%, or the port, which is actually the changes are already in. It doesn't matter what these are, because if you are at 10.1 to 10.9 trade routes is completely irrelevant. There is no difference. It's only when you break the, full number barrier, like I had done, but it went back down here, that you will see any changes. So you're not going to really be seeing the percentage increases very much at all. Like, a marketplace will give you assimilation speed and civilization level, but the base trade routes are going to do nothing until you reach that magic breaker number. So I don't know. Is it possible to add a base value? Yes, clearly, because we've got nobles giving 0.6. I think having the trade routes be a base number instead of a percentile, it may be better. But that's just me. That's my opinion. Right. So there we go. We got that. But other than that, yeah, I like the changes. It's fine. So aqueducts are shit, and I hate them. We've decided to remove the civilization malice that Invictus previously introduced due to some valid concerns, disagree, on the forums and Discord. I don't care. However, there will be still some drawbacks introduced to this building in order to prevent an aqueduct spam meta, which will return because your changes are bad. Aqueducts will now take 720 days to construct, similar to fortresses. They will now be limited to a maximum of 15 in a city. One city had 15 aqueducts, Rome, and that's fucking it. Like, they were... It's fucking dumb. Whoever put the final, like, yes, let's do this, was wrong. I don't give a shit. You're wrong. You're just wrong. Whatever, moving on, because I'm getting pissed off about it. Anyway, moving on. Granaries. They're typically built only in 3 cases, as required by missions, in early game when food sources are scarce, though this has been made more important by the Invictus food changes, which should probably be fixed as well, because they're bad as well, and mid and late game to help drive up population. That being said, granaries are still commonly ranked among the worst types of buildings by players, and their impact requires some tweaking. Granaries now give 300 provincial food capacity instead of 200. Granaries will also get an additional plus 1% monthly food modifier. I like that. That's good. With these changes, provinces with granaries are more likely to survive the harsh winters introduced by Invictus and help cities to flourish a bit more. These, I like the idea of a harvest seasons mod, which is what is doing the food changes, but it is far too extreme and really needs to be toned down quite significantly. As Rome, for example, you need to immediately import grain on the start of the game, otherwise you will starve within a year, which is ridiculous. It's utterly ridiculous. It lowers your options and your choices, and it's not fun, especially in multiplayer, because you don't really have time to go around and check and, pause the game and check all of your cities to make sure that they're all, importing enough food and all that. Single player, it may be a bit better. But yeah, I do think it needs tweaking still. The granary will help, but I don't know if it's going to be enough of a help. The library, they are great and thus no changes have been made besides the cost reduction. The marketplace. Feedback indicates that outside of the capital, province, and the occasional city that needs some extra help assimilating, marketplaces are some of the least built buildings. This makes sense, as when you run the numbers, the actual benefits you get from the plus 2.5% local trade routes is absolutely abysmal. Compared to the comparably high building cost and necessity for nobles and citizens to make an impact, the vanilla marketplace is simply a poor choice of money. With libraries, all research bonuses accrue to the decimal, but it's not the same for marketplaces. With trade routes, you either have 1 or 2 trade routes with nothing in between. It's literally what I was saying earlier. This means you must pass the threshold in order to feel any effect from the building, and thus a small modifier increase does nothing most of the time. We've increased the total trade route modifier from 2.5% to 7.5%. Now marketplaces coupled with a port will allow nations who invest in their cities more access to trade goods outside the civic provincial investments. With testing, this value may change as the cheaper marketplaces cost and bonus from ports might make 7.5% a bit too strong. Disagree. It's still a percentage. You've got the exact this is an identical problem. You have not fixed the problem at all. The exact same issue is still present. You've just, made it not an issue faster. It's still an issue though. You still feel absolutely nothing from one marketplace because this you know, extra 5% is not enough to make any difference most of the time. So yeah, that, yeah, whatever. Time will tell. It won't. I'll tell you right now. But for sure, marketplace is certainly much more viable now. Alright, training camps. These are really good. Based on feedback from the multiplayer community, we've reduced manpower modifier from 10% to 7.5%. So while training camps are cheaper now, they're less effective. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Tax offices are another building that doesn't get built as often as they tend to. They have a poor return of investment. The reduction in commerce in Invictus has made taxes a more important part of a nation's income, but tax overall is still lacking. We've increased the local tax modifier from 10 to 15% to help make this building more attractive. Coupled with reduced costs, these buildings have a much better return on investment than they previously did. Good, fair enough. The Academy, no changes outside the build cost. Court of Law, the only building... Sorry, this building is built primarily for the citizen desired ratio and as a result of mission requirements. However, the province loyalty modifiers have traditionally only been held by the two great buildings, which has always seemed slightly off. We've increased the province loyalty from 0.01 to 0.03. This increase makes sense thematically and can be stacked to a number maximum of 3 times. In order to prevent abuse, the province loyalty bump to the Great Temple and Grand Theatre will be reduced from 0.05 to 0.03. This means a city with 3 courts of law, a Grand Theatre and a Grand Temple will yield plus 0.15 province loyalty, whereas in Malay you get 0.13, which doesn't seem game-breaking. Yep, no, that's fine. There's still not buildings that I generally will build too terribly many of, but yeah, no, it's fine. The Forum, no changes beside base cost. With the increased importance of food due to seasonal harvest, this building got an inadvertent boost. We feel it's pretty balanced as it is for the moment. I like forums. I build quite a lot of them. Yeah, it's good. It's good. Forums are great. The mills, they're not popular tier 2 buildings. Unlike other pop ratio buildings, slaves provide no trade routes, nor research points, nor manpower. As a result, mills can usually only come up in severe slave city builds, and even then only to serve to drive up the pop ratio, while providing some, though not much, return on investment. In terms of the slave output modifier, as the only other thing slave pops are associated with is trade good production, we thought it only makes sense that the mills help in that regard. So you get slave needed for local surplus -1, which is decent, it's alright. Plus 6% slave output modifier with a -1 slaves required to surplus modifier. I would have had both of them, to be honest, because I still probably won't buy them. This accomplishes several goals. It allows for cities with high enough slave pops to become trade good powerhouses, albeit locked behind a cost of 450 gold versus a 300 from the vanilla Foundry. It allows the Foundry to operate as the means to increase slave output, thus increasing higher tax, and offers realistic benefit to compete against manpower, trade route, and research production. I would have had both. I don't see the problem with having both. Yeah, it is what it is. Earthworks are shit. Invictus has made changes to fort defense bonus and build time. Local fort defense has increased from 25% to 50%, but also reduced the build time from 1440 days to 720, which we found was unnecessarily punishing. People are still not going to build this building. They're still not going to build this building because it is garbage. The thing is, to make this building viable, you need to have 4 or 5 levels of fort. Lowering the population capacity is massively punishing. The defense means nothing if you have enough manpower to assault the city, and if you probably just use mercs as a one and done. Use the mercs, assault the city, take the city, fire the mercs. That's generally the only time I'd assault someone with earthworks. But to be honest, I've never had to because no one has been stupid enough to build them. They're garbage. The fact that you need fortified camps as well, and let's just have a look where fortified camps is in the invention tree. In military, to get fortified camps is it an entrenchment? No, there it is. Here. Do people go down here? What do we need to get? Fort defense, cultural defense, great wonder, more fort defense, and then fortified camps. And then, like, why? There's no reason to come down here. I suppose that means you need that. So I guess if you want to go for Contravalian, then Polypastian and Mangonel, you would. But fort defense, some siege ability. I mean, it's a waste of a. It's a waste. You'll never go down here. You're never interested in going down here. Going for Noric Steel, actually, that's worth it, going down here for this. But that is just for Italics, right? Taking all of this here is just for Italics, so you're not going to be able to... You're not going to come down here if not for that. It's just... It's not great. And also, I think this has been reworked in Invictus, because I don't remember Noric Steel being after fortified camps in vanilla. I really don't. I might be wrong, though. I might be wrong. Alright, so earthworks, garbage. Moving on. The Foundry, they're after the big one. One of, if not the most spammed buildings. Honestly, I wouldn't say spammed, because they're so fucking expensive. You're going to build like 5 of them and then run out of money and have to wait until you get more money. Spammed is not correct. Are they in every single city? Yes. But I wouldn't call that spamming. There's a lot of things that are in every single city. I would build a forum in every single city. I'll build 3 forums in every single city. Am I spamming those? Probably. But yeah, it being a good building that you want in every city doesn't mean it's spammed. Don't agree with that at all. The building with the most unusual and confusing while ridiculously strong effects, the Foundry. Consistently one of the best buildings in the game, the Foundry has tons of love, perhaps too much to love. It's useful for nearly every city, and that's not necessarily a good thing. Okay, you've sang its praises enough. Additionally, the bonuses received an inconsistent and difficult to justify in terms of flavor. We've decided that total rework of Foundries is required from a flavor and balance perspective. Increase the time from 180 to 360 days like the other Tier 3 buildings. Replace the 25% research points effect with plus 5% Freeman output. The increase in taxes and manpower should be ascribed to the increased efficiency of the POPs due to high quality tools and materials they receive from the Foundry. They replace the tax modifier with slave output. Well, that's shit. As with the above bullet, this increased to production will yield more tax from the city, but in a more sensible and believable way. And -4 slave surplus is changed to +1 base production. This is one of the biggest changes and is a direct result of the city nerf from Invictus. The thought here is that base production should be a less stackable modifier than slave surplus for larger cities, and this building will still be prioritized for players who have a city with a particularly valuable trade good. Additionally, slave surplus modifiers are given to the mill, so this modifier needs to change in order to accommodate that. We anticipate that Foundry will still be good and will be a go-to building in order to generate more trade goods and to increase the wealth of a city. However, it should be less effective in very high slave pop cities than it was previously, and will help nations recover from the perceived lack of trade goods available on the market. Okay, so did you say the cost of these has gone down a smudge? Let's have a look. Foundries. Let me just scroll back up to see the Tier 3 building change cost thing. Alright, so it's gone up in cost by 20 gold. So it's now 320 gold. So monthly that cost is going... you're probably going to get maybe 3 ducats a year. Where's the bloody thing? Didn't I... I've gone way past it. My bad. There it is. You're going to have maybe... it depends on the trade good, to be honest. Some trade goods can net you like 11, 12 gold a year. So the return on investment there is going to be pretty significant. Unless the mine has changed. I think building a city and then the foundry on top of precious metals is now going to be a good thing. Yeah, has my game actually updated to include this new meta? No, okay, so we got the old one here. Which again, you can't see, my apologies, there you go. My game hasn't updated to include these changes. Slaves needed for local surplus -4. I mean, this is Rome and it's not got enough slaves for it. Although, in this campaign, Rome did just get sacked, so whatever. Yeah, I would say probably... I think when Rome got sacked, it actually deleted the Foundry. Fucking mental. Okay. Well, I think probably this is going to be a boost in general. Especially the Freeman output, that's huge. Foundry and 3 forums is pretty much going to be in every city. But anyway, I think this is okay. I didn't think there was anything wrong with Foundries, but this, I guess, makes more sense, and it is somewhat of a boost. It's a buff. Anyway, moving on. Grand Temple, a well-beloved building. It's one of the most quickly unlocked Tier 3 buildings and most built. Conversion is often the first step to assimilation. I mean, it has to be, because Invictus has nerfed assimilation into the ground. Great temples are now required to step on the path to realm consolidation. Not much needs to change here, honestly. Reduce the territory loyalty from 0.05 to 0.03. The effect was slightly too strong along with the other effects, and the Court of Law building will be buffed to compensate. If you are hearing rain in the background, apologies. We're having a little bit of a storm where I'm living. Yeah, I mean, the state, religion, happiness, and alone is really good. Even in your own provinces, you'll probably want a Great Temple. They're just very, very good. And open religion is like 3 steps down from the start of the game, so you're going to be able to get it immediately. The Grand Theatre, reduce the loyalty, and that's it. Fine. Onto settlement buildings. Farm only changes a plus 10% silver value and the base cost. This is good because one of the big problems since this change with civ value being so important is that settlements, they just lag so far behind because they lack the buildings available to boost their civilization value, and civilization value is a fucking big deal. It gives so many bonuses that you can't really do without it. The only thing I would change here with the farm is +1 good. I would have +1 good and the surplus, and that's it. That's how I would fiddle with it. Especially with the food changes in Invictus being so horrible, just having +1 good, because slave needed for local surplus, you're generally not gonna find your settlements having enough slaves unless you're manually moving slaves, which I fucking hate doing and shouldn't be a thing. You're generally not gonna find this making any difference at all, so just having +1 good is, in my opinion, a better choice. Hell, even fucking replace it, because it just does nothing. It just does nothing. But yeah. That's that. So, the slave estate, you get +15% civ value. Okay. Still probably not going to build one. The mines, yeah, only change the +10 civ value and the base cost. Okay, so the problem then is, again, going back to the game. There we go. Say I've got a precious metal mine. I think I've got one up here. There we go. Precious metal mine, it has a mine on it. I do not have enough slaves to get the extra 1 trade good. You are probably going to be better off building a city and then a foundry to get more precious metals. You just are. You build the city, you build a foundry, you build the slave, whatever they call it, the mill. And then you're golden. By the way, this is, I don't know, I don't rate it at all. Let's have a look at the mill again, just to make sure that I'm not talking out of my arse. Yeah, you get slave unit plus local surplus. You can have 3 of these, I think. Yeah. So you get -3 versus the -5 that you get from the mine, but you've also got a slaves desired ratio. You can have more population in a city. Yeah, they've screwed the pooch on the settlement buildings. I don't think they've done enough. I think they're wrong. Yeah, it is what it is. You're wrong. Tribal settlements only changes the +25% civ value and the base cost. Okay, so this is the one that they were saying at the start of this dev diary was changed to make them more viable. The 25% civ level is pretty good. It's really, really good. I'm still never going to build one. Just not going to ever build one, because whenever I'm playing as a tribal nation, my goal is to civilize. Building this is just a temporary cost before I tear it down for something better in the future. It's just not a viable building. It helps. 25% sub value helps, but not enough. Not enough. Provincial legation. The changes are plus 100% local pop assimilation speed. That is up significantly. No, it's not. Never mind. Got migration speed, migration attraction. The base cost is changed, and they've got the 25% serve level. I like this building. The assimilation speed is quite nice. Maybe a little expensive for what it does, but if you've got the cash and you've just annexed a big area, this can do very nicely for you. Final notes, the overall goal of these changes are allow for tier 1 buildings to be more accessible to poorer nations, for each building to have better return on investment, and to have each building feel like they're promoting a certain playstyle and allowing for some unique conditions to arise, and finally, to give cities a path to trade good production that was lost during the city rank nerf. I believe these changes help to accomplish all these goals without the introduction of new building types and more dramatic overhaul. And now we're on to Dustin. Stefan and he are back with some more cultural inventions. He's pushed eastward along the map with sets for the Persian, Meroitic, and Examite Arabian and Anatolian culture groups. Like the Egyptians to the north, the Meroitics will have access to the Book of the Dead and embalming inventions, meaning that Kushite players may also get the chance to mummify a prominent former ruler for the benefit of the kingdom. Good stuff. Meroitic inventions also cover food production, Indian ocean trade, ironworking, and production. Oh, this is in the naval area? No one's going to build that. Well, I know one person who would, but other than that, no. The restrictive effects of diplomatic and control range in the Indian Ocean are lifted for nations with Indian, Meroitic, Examite, and Arabian primary cultures, getting the huge diplo range and control range modifiers, which is actually pretty handy. In vanilla, you've got no diplo range if you're in India. You can't even reach around the Indian coast. You can't go from Somalia to like the Indus River, for example. It's painful. So honestly, I would have put this higher, making them go all the way down here, like wasting 3 inventions to get to a playable state. I would not sure I agree with. Yeah, but it's okay. The Babylonian island of Tylos also gets a unique invention exclusive to its tag, celebrating its famous involvement in the Indian Ocean cotton trade. 20% commerce income is pretty nice. I mean, it's really nice. It's one of the best modifiers in the game. Persian inventions focus on food production and population capacity through ancient irrigation and urbanization techniques. Infrastructure such as the postal system and the legacy of the Persian royal court include the use of Aramaic as the administrative language of the empire, so you get monthly wages for characters. There's probably more down here. It's just they're only showing one of them. Fair enough. Via special decision, players that have patronized Persian science and literature through the cultural decisions will also be able to build their own lush garden in the capital, having long-term local bonuses. That's pretty cool, actually. Anatolian culture group shares a few inventions in common with the Persians in recognition of the dispensation under their former political overlords. So you can get Achaemenid administration here underneath provincial census, which is something I often get. So that's nice. Also have coins here, getting some tax. And last but not least, several inventions dedicated to the large Armenian culture group, including martial dancing, Armenia's signature musical instrument, the duruk, and lace making. So political influence is nice there. I don't know what the other things are. Now I have some patch notes for the 1.0.3 Spartacus update. Reworked how slave revolts work internally. There's a total internal rework. You now get a third of the slaves back, and victory event now fires properly after a month. Good. Fix being able to spy on people through player map mode. Updated Spanish translations. Improved localization for the Carthage content. New Carthage tree possible by changing a trade good on the map. Put Capio back in Capio. Changed Ostia Antica to just Ostia. Updated Hellenistic Empire tree to be more reasonable in conditions and effects. Tweaking what regions exactly are given each of the satraps and the conditions for certain missions to appear. Epirate tree has been updated. More reasonable subjects and better demands. Yeah, there's a bit too many Epirate subjects. It was a little bit extreme. Updated the Macedonian tree to now properly give Empire government type. Updated conditions for the Irish Albion formable. all territory names to use Latin characters. This was fucking useful because if you were, say, let's go back in. That's not what I wanted to show. That one there. Control F, like, obviously you can change exact matches off, but there were some provinces, like Massalia here. Massalia. 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 But no! Because this is an accented I, which doesn't exist on the vast majority of keyboards of people who play this game. So, I mean, you can turn this off, but at the same time, you're still not getting it. You're getting the Massalia region down here, and you're getting Ubon Massalia. This was a terrible idea, and I'm glad they're changing it. I mean, is the A wrong? What? What? This makes no sense. Yeah, but it was a terrible idea, and I'm glad they've learned their lesson. Alright. Seleucid Babylon traitor only acquire 85% culture unity, down from 90. Seleucids declaring a normal war against the Artigides, so that's fixed. Fixed them. The Syrian missions tricking Antigone instead of Seleucia Perea. Fixed Antigone's collapsing when making Corinth a feudatory. All territories now be owned by subjects now too. That's actually huge. Fixed custom bloodline texts having wrong effects and not properly appearing. Fixed Macedonian missions instantly cancelling for nations like Epirus. Slightly changed the conditions for getting Empire rank from Macedonian missions. Antipatriot legacy isn't required anymore, so Epirus should be able to do it. Good. Fix the Hellenistic Empire satrapies so their primary culture is now integrated. Hellenistic Empire satrapies are no longer able to form nations and lose satrapy name. And fix the conditions for restoring the Argead dynasty. You now need to own Pella. You'll always receive the right heritage. Lovely stuff. Yeah, so let me know what you guys think. Obviously, there's not I'm not on board with absolutely everything that's been shown here today. There's some things that I think could be better. There's some things I think have gone in the wrong direction, and there's some changes that we're scrolling up to now that I think are absolutely garbage, and I question the intelligence of the person who decided it. That's a joke. Please don't take that as anything but a joke. Yeah, actor changes are fucking stupid, but the rest of it's alright. I just questioned some decisions. But anyway, I'd love to know what you guys think, so please do let me know in the comment section below what your thoughts are. And yeah, I guess I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.